Fact number one. There are many people that think that this film is actually about a psychotic break, not a curse. People have theorized that Drag Me to Hell is not a literal haunting story, but about a woman losing her sanity and being taken advantage of. In this iteration, people believe that the stress of Christine's job, her home life, with the mother-in-law not liking her, and trying to get promoted is stressing her beyond belief. When she makes a mistake and takes an old woman's home, this is the breaking point for her. It's where she's completely changed her character and it's just too much to handle. Her ambition and guilt lead to her breaking down, and when the old woman dies, it only gets worse. In most interpretations, the attack that happens in the garage is still real. Everything up until that point kind of is where things stay cohesive, and after that is where it goes bad. Ramjas and Sandina are shysters taking advantage of a woman plagued by guilt, and the nosebleed that sprayed so very much was actually just her interpretation of events that happened. It kind of shows a little bit of psychosis happening there. For them, the ending is just basically her getting run over by the train, maybe having the delusions because she knows she's going to die right there about being dragged to hell. Is this theory plausible? I don't buy it as much, just because Sam Raimi likes to have fun with this sort of thing, but I can see where people are coming from with this theory. Fact number two. Alison Lohman did most of her own stunts. One of the things that struck me about this movie was just how violent some of it was. It's definitely a Sam Raimi trait to have this kind of squicky violence, like people getting stapled, eyes getting poked, all sorts of nasty things that you just kind of cringe at. And this movie definitely had a lot of those, as well as a lot of big physical things. She talked about how in the garage scene that they were really going at it. They didn't want any fake acting here, so there are times where she's actually being choked, where her hair is getting pulled, where she's getting hit, and she just had to roll with it and just get right up in there and let it happen. It takes a lot of effort as an actor and actress to be able to do this sort of thing, especially for a horror movie. I think personally the worst thing in that would have been the whole bug facial she got. That was really rough. The pain is a little bit easier to manage than being completely covered in nastiness. Shooting the film was such hard work that Alison Lohman became run down and even got shingles. She said, "It takes an enormous amount of energy to keep your adrenaline high filming scenes where you're being scared all the time and fighting for your life." I imagine that this was just a very hard project for her from start to finish. Fact number three. Much of the look and actions of the demon were derived from Krampus and the Greek Furies. We Human Echoes are huge fans of the Krampus. It doesn't matter if it's the movie version or our absolute favorite, which is a book from Brahm, just called Krampus. And we always like that style, the kind of goat horns and everything else. Krampus is often described as a creature with goat horns. A lot of times it's kind of got like satyr legs and everything where they're hairy with hooves. And Krampus basically would take bad children away from their parents and drag them to hell. Or there are iterations where it's just he eats them and various other things. The Furies, though, were vengeful spirits that could be summoned to torment somebody until they killed themselves, and then would drag their soul to hell for eternal torment. So you can see how drawing on both of these kind of brought the idea of this demon to life. Fact number 4. Lamia is part of Greek mythology and European history. The title villain in this film is a demon named Lamia, and it's much different than the film version. In Greek mythology, Lamia is a mistress of Zeus who ended up eating children after she became corrupted. In a lot of European folklore, Lamia is a seductress who is the bane of marriages, who basically get men to cheat on their wives. In modern times, Lamia is more used as a sort of female type of boogeyman to scare children, one that might take their souls in the night or strangle babies. It's a very, very dark thing, but that's basically where it's landed now. Fact number 5. Popcorn facts. Sometimes there isn't a giant glaring fact that makes me want to give it the whole 5 facts treatment, so here's just a bunch of little ones. The yellow Delta 88 is the same car used in the Evil Dead films. I wasn't 100% sure on this whenever I first saw it, but I was like, that looks like Ash's car. That really does, and it turns out that it was, so Sam Raimi's putting some references to his other movies in here. The maggots barfed all over Christine were actually made of pasta. I talked a little bit earlier about how that would have been one of the grossest scenes. They still made it look entirely awful, even if it did taste like noodle. Shooting a fight scene in a car is hard. The crew built a car without a front or back, a removable roof, all the doors came off easily, windows could pop out, and they basically made a puzzle car, one that they could easily piece back together so that they could get the right shots. The script for this is actually pretty old. They wrote this directly after The Evil Dead, but because of a few other projects getting in the way, mostly Spider-Man, which kept Sam Raimi occupied for about a decade, he wasn't able to put this out until 2009. Sam Raimi has always walked a fine line between horror and comedy. Many people don't know how to handle Evil Dead's mix of silliness and outright horror. Most people are fans, but there are a few people where it's just kind of disengaging and breaking. His fingerprints are all over Drag Me to Hell. It's a movie where I was smiling just as much as I was recoiling from something gross or terrible. I love a director that can ride the line so well. None would ever call this a full-on comedy, but its black humor turns a standard curse movie into something that shines. It's also admirable the commitment the film had to practical effects in an overpowering CGI era. Everybody remembers the mid-90s where it was just like everything's green screen, everything. And this movie has a few moments of bad CGI, but for the most part they tried to keep everything practical and in camera. And anytime that happens, it just makes for a better horror movie. There's not much else to say about this one. Thank you all for watching. Please let me know in the comments what you thought of this movie. And also, if you buy into fact number 1 that it might not have been a literal showing, it might have been her psychotic break. Also, please let me know what other movies you'd like to see get the 5 facts treatment. Always looking for good suggestions. Anything that's in the horror genre, is a little bit weird, is a little bit dark, can fit in here. And I will see you guys in 2 weeks with another edition of 5 facts.